Hello everyone, Jak Syn here on behalf of Fiend.com and Future Daze, and today it is another exciting episode of Artist Interviews. Today I am sitting with Alex Vecchietti. How you doing today?
Hey Jack, I'm doing fine. How are you?
I'm doing pretty well. It's a nice, beautiful day outside. It'd be a lot better if they weren't working on the building next door with construction, but it is what it is. I'm off work. I'm having a good day. How about yourself?
Well, good. Yeah. Well, I know what you're saying. I mean, I live right next to some like tram tracks, and it's like just stoom da doom da doom like from 5:30 a.m. onwards. So it's all day, every day. So I enjoy peace and quiet when I get it.
Exactly, but not too much quiet. I tell you, if I don't have a fan going on in the room at nighttime, oh my God, I can hear my brain. You know what I mean? So today we're going to ask you a couple of questions and see where it goes from here. Are you ready to get into it?
Absolutely, yeah.
What are three of your most memorable moments from your musical career?
Wow, that's a tough one because my, let's say, career spans out like 23 years nearly. And I started off, like with hardcore and metalcore, moving on to crossover, hard rock, electro, and, obviously now synthwave and darkwave with my recent album. But I think one of the most memorable moments has to be a mini tour I did with an old band of mine with Agnostic Front, legendary hardcore band from New York. Absolutely crazy guys, love them. When life was very hardcore and I was 21 and it was like all that. Then 2009, I've had like the enormous privilege of having worked with AC/DC. Not as an artist, I'm probably like not that good, but as an interpreter and as a kind of a roadie for some specific things during the Black Ice tour, and they had like 2 shows in Italy, and it was just mind blowing. The many artists I've had the pleasure to meet and work with, from like legendary punk bands. I opened a show for Marky Ramone. He was an incredibly funny character to be around with. So yeah, tours, people, that's what music is about, meeting people and having memorable moments, even with people you'll never remember the following day, but have just giving you so much.
Exactly, right there. Those are some pretty awesome moments right there. I'll tell you that. Like touching back on what you were talking about hardcore scene. It's like I remember the hardcore scene. I remember the hardcore days. You know what I mean? That the metalcore days like that. I was in high school when that was kind of going down. So I mean, it's amazing like how many people like got into that. Like they were really heavily into it. And it wasn't a bad style or anything like that. Like I enjoyed some of the music, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But me, I was more of like the Rob Zombie, Marilyn Manson kind of guy. So it's like I was like all about that creepier dark stuff. But hey, I could appreciate a good slam pit.
Oh, I'm in love with Marilyn Manson. I mean, I think John 5 kind of was one of those guitarists that kind of taught me the chops without obviously knowing it. When I was like starting off 13, 14, it was like, John 5, Tom Morello, The Edge. Those are like the 3 main guitarists. Yeah. I love that kind of, electro crossover, dark 90s genre. Beautiful.
Exactly right there. That set me on my path. You know what I mean? Set me on my path to where I am today. And I got to tell you, I have no regrets whatsoever. I know my parents kind of were a little afraid at the time, but hey, you know what? Yeah, I think I'm a pretty well-adjusted individual.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people obviously demonize it, but something a lot of people don't understand is that kind of music is the perfect outlet for a lot of crazy shit that happens in your mind as a teenager or as a young man or a young woman. And it's perfectly okay. I mean, absolutely destroy yourself and then kind of think about it later when, the bones are healing,
Exactly. Hey, and it makes for a good stage show because, hey, you're influenced by these awesome artists that give their blood, sweat, and tears on the stage every time.
Yeah.
But also, too, it's like some of the other things that you're mentioning, like working with artists, doing tours, working with AC/DC, that right there is amazing. Like, I think one of the best things that you can do as an artist, to everybody out there, if you're like doing shows or you're planning on doing shows or getting out there in the world with your music, try booking a tour. get a tour together, because you will really find out a whole bunch of amazing things about the world when you go on tour. You will
Yeah.
get some really great lessons, and you will get to meet some really amazing people when you do get out there.
But sorry, Jack, I mean, I'd like to kind of build up on that. That's one of the huge problems nowadays, because I mean, the world is a much more kind of closed place compared to, you know, I mean, when I was younger. I mean, I suppose we're probably like the same age. I mean, I'm 35. I think it was much easier back in the day for a few reasons. First of them being like obviously money. I mean, you used to have people who used to invest in music. I mean, I know like loads of bands in the States used to kind of, you know, obviously have their kind of big break in either, you know, Nashville or Austin, and go there, you know, to, you know, and play shows for obviously, looking for people who would actually finance their tours and shows and albums and everything else. Nowadays, it's just like utopia. I mean, you will not find people doing that, you know, for an independent band. I mean, you have to be like, you know, God knows what kind of, you know, senator's son or whatever. It's really hard to go on tour. I mean, the last successful tour I managed to organize was back in 2015. And even then it was a huge struggle. And it was only like Italy, like where I live, obviously. So, I mean, a tour around, in my experience, I mean, like you need a tour manager. You need someone who obviously, you know, goes there with you, because, you know, you're either 21, really punk about it. And, you know, I mean, driving, you know, how many hundreds of kilometers or miles on, you know, just like frozen ramen noodles.
Yeah.
Or, I mean, you know, if you want to have that kind of bit of, I don't know, like financial safety, I think you need like a tour manager, someone who goes there with you, someone who knows how to speak to a club owner if they're acting funny and, you know, don't want to pay you at the end of the night, or having any kind of issues, or, you know, whatever. And it's like, man, it's tough. It's just one of the most incredibly difficult things nowadays. And instead, before, it was making an album. That used to be really difficult, and it used to be really easy going on tour. So, I mean, you know, tables have turned now, I think.
Yeah, I think you're right in some aspects right there, because, you know, it's when you go on tour, it's like, yeah, you have to have somebody who's a level head, somebody who knows how to talk to the promoters, somebody who knows how to talk to the venue owners, somebody who's really there from start to finish, like getting you all the things that you need, making sure that you're being taken care of like all the way. Because when you do get to some venues, sometimes the venues like to take advantage of the artists. Sometimes they don't like to treat you as well as you should be treated. You know, and then sometimes you do have, you know, touring acts that come through that kind of left a bad taste in some of the venues' mouths, you know, and they think that all the artists that come through there, you know, like later on are going to be the same way. But no, that's not, you know, that's not true. It's like, just because we're here doesn't mean we're going to trash your stage and like mess your club up or whatever. There are a lot of artists out there who are very respectful to, you know,
Definitely.
the way that things should be done. And I think you're right. You know, back then it was like, you know, the hard thing was to make an album, but it was easy to go on tour because you get your friends in a van or whatever. You just go on tour. You just book a couple of shows here and there and go off and do your thing. But I mean, me touring in my 30s as opposed to touring in my 20s is completely different. Touring in my 30s, I need a hotel room. I need a shower. You know what I mean? I need little amenities here and there. I need something, you know. I need to, you know, at least stay in a place that's like comfortable in some way. You know, Jackie Boy needs his robe. You know what I mean? But touring in your 20s, like, you don't care. You'll just pile in the back of the van. You know, you'll be smoking, drinking. Doesn't matter. Like, whatever, you smell terrible, you know, go from place to place and try to get in a few hours sleep here and there. But you know, it's all part of the journey. It is a little bit harder, but hey, we try to use as many things as we can to our disposal, like as artists nowadays, I think, which is great, because we try to do crowdfunding, and we try to because yes, it is expensive to go on tour. It really is expensive, and a lot to do it. You will need a tour manager, you definitely do, but also too, you're going to need backers, like people who, you know, will want to back your tour, you know. And if you have a lot of money, it'd be great. If you want to go out and do it, I'd say take a chance, you know, make it happen. Just to say, if not, just to say that you did it, you know. But
Yeah, I mean, it's a beautiful way to grow up, I think, you know, like being a young musician. And I think, you know, touring is a very humbling experience because you learn how to react in the face of adversities, in the face of obviously, you know, impromptu situations, in the face of poverty, in the face of, oh my God, you know, I'm surrounded by drunks and far away from home, and you know, they want to absolutely like grind my ass. What am I going to do? You know, it's a bit like below 10. Where am I going to sleep? You know, phone
Yeah,
box.
exactly, exactly. You learn a lot of life lessons when you're on the road going from place to place because you'll start to notice that, you know, even though you might be, people may love you back home, people on the road may not love you as much. You will notice that like one
Hmm.
show is completely different from the next. It's like one night you're going to have like 100 people. Another night you may only have 5 to 10. You never know. It's just, it just happens. It's
Yeah.
just the way it is. It's like you be riding high and then all of a sudden something happens. Like you forget your snare at the last venue or you forget guitar. I mean, it happens.
Or you forget one of the PA speakers.
Yeah, exactly.
Terrible.
But hey, you know,
Awful experience.
it's hey, right there. It's an awful experience, but hey, you work really well under pressure because all it takes is to call up somebody, try to get somebody over there, you know, and they try to work with you as best they can to get you all set up and ready to go. But I tell you, when you look back at that stuff, it's like those defining moments in your life that really kind of set you on a really great path. What would
Yeah.
you say is your favorite music release that you've worked on?
Classic answer is like, oh, they all have a very special part, you know, in my soul and heart and whatever, which is obviously true. Some more than others. I'm on my 6th studio album, one that's just about, I'll be releasing for Halloween, this Halloween. It's called When the Nothing Shines Upon. I think this is like probably, this is the most personal album I've ever released. It's you know, I want to take the listener along some kind of very dark places I've been through my life, but with a different point of view, because I think, you know, this is an album that has been in the making for years, but I mean, I kind of I was honest about it and thought that I couldn't have released it while I was depressed, while I was, you know, going through like a really bad stage, because it would have been so personal and I would have clinged on to everything and wouldn't been able to take any kind of criticism, or, you know, I couldn't have seen it, you know, through a kind of a producer's perspective, which is obviously what I do now because that's my mindset. And I'm happy to have released it now because, I mean, it's an album about depression, but in a very kind of colorful way. I know it's a bit of a paradox, but, you know, now I'm a father, I'm a husband, and I've kind of reached my inner peace in many things in life. So going back to those moments in my life in a very kind of critical and I think more mature way, I think was the way to do it. So I think this is a very mature album. This is, you know, I'm kind of really stepping up, like, you know, obviously upping my game with this album, definitely. And apart from this one, probably an album by an old band of mine called the Shasta, that called Never Be Defeat. And that album changed my life because I was clinically depressed back then. And I mean, the worst thing about depression is, apart from obviously, you know, sucking as a situation, you convince yourself of the impossible. Yeah. I mean, I was seriously convinced I was going to die at like 27, 28, because that's when I wrote the album. And I mean, obviously it didn't happen, but I was absolutely convinced, and it was completely irrational. And that album was going to be my kind of effigy. Yeah. My kind of testament. And instead it helped me kind of pick myself up. It gave me a lot of stimuli, you know, the whole team I had before, and of very toxic people, let's just put it that way. So yeah, probably these 2 albums.
Well, see right there, you know, it's like as you progress through your career and your life, you know, and your creativity, it's like everything changes. Everything is constantly evolving all the time. You know, it's like one experience is never the same as the experience that came before. You know, any release that you put out, anything you create artistically. And as, you know, we progress as artists, it's like we go down different paths, different roads all the time. And they
Yeah.
lead us to some really great places, but then also sometimes they can lead us to some very dark places, some very
Yeah.
self-doubting places. But I understand what you're referring to, like when you're talking about, you know, being in depression, being in a state of depression. You know, it's like I was battling depression back in 2008 to 2010, like really bad. You know, 2 years. You know, it's like, but at the same time, it was like, you know, I went down the medication route. So it was like I went, you know, got on medication. It turned me into a completely different person. You know, that was like really
Mhm.
numb. So
Yeah.
it's like you, even though you're still working, you're still trying to do things, you're still trying to create music, it's like you're a different person. You're not the person that you were before.
Yeah.
And when you finally come out of that and you get back to the person that you are, and you kind of come out of that fog, people kind of look at you a little bit differently. They kind of see a different person and kind of going like, are you okay? And kind of go, yeah, I'm fine. This is who I was before. This is who I've always been. You know, it's
Yeah.
just you didn't know me at that, who I was before. You know, so I can see where you're definitely coming from with that. I know that, you know, sometimes it takes like creativity, it takes a push in a certain direction through some type of means that really kind of elevate you to the next level, kind of really kind of speak to you and say, you know what, hey, I can do anything I put my mind to. I am a strong individual. I'm a strong person. I can make anything I want happen in my life. I can really
Absolutely.
make some amazing things go down if I really just kind of stand up on my 2 feet, stand up straight and go, hey, this is my life and I'm going to take control of it. And I'm going to make amazing things happen. And your
Yeah.
music, you know, your sound, you know, you as an artist, like the things that I've listened to that you put out, uh, they're really, really great stuff, very
Thank
dynamic
you.
sounding stuff. You know, you have a
Thank
lot of
you.
influences, but you have these dancey influences, but you also have these retro cinematic feels to it as well. But you have that synthwave influence, but also too you have that strong, like you can definitely tell that you have a background as a musician. You can definitely tell that you have a very good attention to detail with your music, and you can definitely hear that coming out in all of your releases.
Well, I mean, you know, I think well, thank you, first of all, obviously. I, I really think that what you put out, I mean, nowadays it's like really normal, you know, for any kind of bedroom producer or anyone just like starting out with on a DAW or, you know, on Cubase, on Logic, whatever, to just put stuff out, because, you know, you do stuff and you just put it out, you know, it goes how it goes, whatever. I'm convinced that, you know, like an album is a testament to, and it's like a Polaroid, you know, like wanting to be retro and all that. It is a Polaroid of that moment in your life. And it's a painting. Yeah. You can either choose to sketch something out, you know, like really raw sketch and just like, hey, what do you think? Okay, cool. Or you can choose to actually focus on a painting and do it incredibly well, and have something very detailed. But again, it depends. I mean, it's not a question of right and wrong. I mean, you know, I was born as a punk. Punk was like, here's a chord, here's another, now go form a band. Yeah. But obviously in time, I cannot like not put, you know, all the various influences I have in a record, because, you know, I feel these kind of little voices inside saying, you know, like, what about me? What about me? You know, I can't ignore these voices. And it's very difficult because obviously I'm also a producer, you know, other artists, and you know, I can't go all like, you know, schoolboy on things. You know, I have to have like a really kind of detached approach, and I think that's the hardest thing, because, you know, I think when you start producing, you always have to kind of take a step back and remember how it was to be just the listener and not the musician. You know, like, oh, what a cool solo. The average listener doesn't, you know, doesn't give a shit about the solo. The first thing they hear is drums, and then they hear vocals, if there are any, you know, or the hook. So it's always important to keep that in mind. And I'm always finding myself like putting loads of stuff on one track and then saying, oh my God, what was I thinking? And just taking stuff out and leaving, you know, like the essential bits, but, you know, at least the ones that will kind of stick the most, at least.
I totally understand that. It's like I feel the same way. It's like as an artist, sometimes I'll lay a whole bunch of stuff down on the track and you kind of go, and I'll listen to it and I'll go, man, this, you know, at one point I'll say, oh, this sounds really cool. But then I'll go back and listen to it again a little bit later and kind of go like, oh my God, I put too much, like way too much stuff in there. I need to kind of just take things out. I need to pull things out here and there. I need to get this taken out, get that taken out. and just trying to really kind of get back to the core of what the song is. And I think that's what happens with a lot of artists out there is like sometimes we'll pour so much into something that we need to kind of stop and ask ourselves like, hey, what is important? What is this about at its core? You know, it's like, yeah, you can put in all the 808s you want and all the, you know, the drum beats that you want and all the synthesizers and everything like that. But sometimes less is more. Sometimes it really is. There again, it's all about the feeling, you know.
What about you? How long have you been making music and producing?
So for me, I've been making music since about 2002 when I was in my first band, Death Diary, lead singer in that band. But yeah, I've been on this journey for about 18 years. So it's taken me some pretty amazing places, you know, and being a solo artist now, I don't have anybody, you know, that I have to answer to. I get to do my own kind of thing and just kind of make my own kind of music. Writing and creating is so much more than just having eyes on you. It's about a whole lot more, especially in this day and age. You have to be so much more than just the artist and the musician. You have to be the promoter. You have to be the artwork designer. You have to be you just have to be the band manager. You have to be everything. You have to wear all different kinds of hats. Yeah. So, but I think when you go out there and you're on the stage, it's just about you and the audience. That's all it is, and forming that connection, building that bridge.
Absolutely.
What was the drive behind getting you into making music?
I got into music when, I mean, I've always been into music, like listening, obviously, actively listening to vinyl records and, you know, because I don't come from a musical family, but, you know, my mum was very musical. And so I think I wanted to take it to the next level, which was like learning guitar. I think out of kind of adolescent loneliness, you know, when you're like 11, 12 and you really got no friends and, you know, you're by yourself a lot of the time. It's 1998, there's no internet and, you know, it's summer and you want to, you know, shoot yourself. So guitar was an excellent way to spend that summer. And eventually I ended up, you know, just spending 6-7 hours on it like every day until I became decent. And then I think my first show was when I was 13 and it was in a theater. I wasn't even supposed to be playing. Like a friend of mine, I was, you know, just keeping him company and he was one of the 3 guitarists on that stage that night. And he had an accident and asked me to obviously perform for him. It was a very easy song. And so I did it and I just found myself in front of, you know, 800 people. And from there on, it became a drug, man. You know, it's very cliche again, you know, I mean, millions of people have said that, but damn, you know, when you go through it, there's nothing you can do. And from that moment, I said, wow, I really want to do this for the rest of my life.
That right there, I think, is how a lot of artists and musicians kind of get started. You know, it's like whether it's out of boredom or if it's for popularity or whatever it is, you know, they pick up an instrument and they start kind of tinkering. It's just tinkering, you know, you kind of figure things out as you go. And you pick up things over the years, you get better, you know, you practice more and more and more. And before you know it, you're off playing shows or writing something for a musical or scoring a movie. I don't know, whatever it is. But I think throughout our journey, it's like we start with the basic instruments first, you know, with this keyboard or synthesizer or guitar, bass, drums, doesn't matter. And then you start kind of moving into music production. I think it's an interesting transition, like how we've kind of upgraded over the years with technology, kind of just expanding and making things, you know, larger than they were when we started. But I feel a lot in the same way that you do. It's like I started playing some guitar. I kind of figured, you know, hey, I'm going to start playing guitar. Found out I wasn't really good at it. You know, and I started playing bass. Found out I really wasn't good at that. Started playing some keyboards. Found out I was semi-good at that. But then all of a sudden, they're like, hey, you want to sing with the band? Sure, why not? Let's give it a go. And before you know it, I was off and running. And that right there is just kind of the way that you kind of go. You kind of figure, I'm going to start running on this and see where it takes me. And then kind of figure out that you actually like it. You kind of enjoy it in some way, you know?
It's actually very funny. You mentioned like production. You move on to production. Um, I've always been kind of very non-technological. I've always kind of had this bit of a grudge against technology. Then obviously I succumbed, like everyone. But like my first PC was when I was 20. Yeah, that's when I bought my first ever PC. Before that, it was a choice. I wanted to be like all out analog. So like my first ever recordings were on cassette. I used to have like a double deck cassette. So I used to like record like guitar or like a really kind of, you know, shitty keyboard, like yeah, like on one tape. And then on the other, I used to record that. And then my kind of overdub on another really shitty microphone. And so by the time I had like my third and fourth kind of overdub, the magnetic tape was obviously like demagnetized. So you had this really kind of terrible flanger effect going like whoosh, whoosh kind of effect. And I didn't really give a shit. I mean, I remember talking to my friends and being really hyped, like, hey man, listen to this new song. And them saying like, I can't understand shit, because it was like, yeah, that really terrible kind of tape effect. And so then I thought, you know, maybe it's high time I got a PC and actually an audio card and started working on this stuff more seriously.
I tell you, you know, that right there, it's like, I feel the same way. You know, it's like when I was younger and we were doing the rock stuff, we were doing the dark gothy thing, you know, it was like, I was like computer stuff. Oh, like, you know, that sounds weird. I'm not going to be some techno producer or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But then all of a sudden, just said, hey, one day I says, you know, hey, I want to try my hand at this, see if I can do it. And that's where it's been ever since. It's good. You know, I can pat myself on the back, you know, younger me going like, hey, you made a good decision because you wanted to see if you could do it. You actually figured out that you could do it. But I think back then when you're younger, it's kind of, you know, this purist kind of thing. You're just kind of going like, oh, I gotta stay true to the roots, you know.
Yeah.
But it's I know what you mean about the tapes, like constantly like overdub, like dubbing over, like constantly adding to the things. Because it's like when I was really, really young, it was like I would grab a tape recorder and I would record myself doing something and get another tape recorder and record that and so on and so forth. And it never worked out well. It never did. But it was fun.
It was those times in which the only Spotify we had, and I'm being really bloody old now, is when you had that favorite song of yours on the radio and you used to listen to the radio, waiting for that song to come, and you used to press like record on the tape, because you used to record the songs off the radio, and that's how you put your mixtapes together.
Yeah.
You know,
Hey,
that's retro, man. That's really
that is retro. Hey, you know what? Also, too, it's like I used to do this thing where I used to record music videos off of like VH1, MTV, and also Fuse. You know, I used to record those like rock shows and things like that. And
yeah,
record like music videos, and I create these whole full-on mixed videotape cassettes full of like music videos that I could just throw on whenever I wanted to. God, I miss
oh man,
those
I used to do
tapes.
that too. That's so cool.
I miss those tapes. They're
It
gone now. I don't know
reminds
where they are.
Oh man, it reminds me like the first ever music video I ever did. I was like 20 years old, and I was with a band called Reflections, the same band, you know, the hardcore band, well, metalcore band, same with whom I toured with Agnostic Front and Marky Ramone, etc., etc. And well, basically, I mean, they were based in Italy, so we recorded the music video, which, I mean, if you see it now, it's absolute shite. I mean, it's just gimmicky as fuck. But I mean, you know, for 2005, 2006, it wasn't that bad. And it actually, I remember us like having to pay like, you know, the beta tapes, because, you know, back in the day, MTV wanted, you know, like beta tapes, you know, like the actual, you know, analog tape. So you had to get the video in like analog and digital format and then send it off to them. It was kind of a costly thing to do. And, you know, we were lucky enough to have like a decent record label, and they actually aired the video on like MTV Rocks. I don't know about the States, but like over here in Europe, I mean, MTV Rocks was like after midnight on a Sunday. And, you know, I mean, it used to be like, obviously, destroyed, really tired, and, you know, just waiting for that MTV Rock. Oh, let's see if the video is going to be aired. And they actually did air it a few times. But, you know, that was the accessibility to, you know, to alternative music. I think that was the biggest problem back in the day. I mean, you couldn't really get a hold of alternative stuff. I mean, you used to, you know, have to bootleg or, you know, go through alternate channels and stuff.
Yeah, you really had to. You really did have to go to alternate channels. And, you know, hey, that right there, that was the fun part about all of it, is that you felt like you were kind of doing something a little bit against the law, but you weren't.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But hey, it is what it is. You know, we kind of, we make it work any way that we can. And that's the beauty of it. I still remember what it was like before the internet. So I still remember what it was like before we were all super tech savvy, you know. So I sometimes I miss those days and miss how simple they were, but other times I kind of go, oh my God, this is so much easier, so much better these days than it was back then too. So.
Yeah, especially for flyers, you know, putting up flyers by hand around the city. Don't miss that at all.
Exactly. You're like the town crier on the corner going, hey, come to my show, you know. So people go, yeah, whatever, fuck you, you know what I mean? So it's one of those things. But hey, it's all in the journey, and that's what I think is freaking awesome. Is that we've come far, but hey, we still have those instincts. You know, those instincts where you kind of go that guerrilla marketing technique, even with online stuff. However you got to do it. What are you looking forward to accomplishing the most moving forward?
That's a really good question, because, as we said, you know, times have changed, especially in the last year. So I mean, even very, very successful artists, actors, celebrities have had to kind of, you know, start being very humble about things and kind of step down on many aspects. I mean, before it was all about getting the album out, you know, having a tour, getting a good distributor, and, you know, just getting it out there. Nowadays, obviously, I mean, physical merch is dead. So, I mean, I'm quite happy with what I have. I mean, I've been blessed to have met Colin Bouchard, aka Cybertronics, with whom I founded Retro Reverb Records in 2018. Simply because, obviously, I mean, he was like super happy and, you know, had this really kind of, you know, fresh approach. I was kind of, you know, the old man saying, oh, record labels, fuck them, you know, and all that. But, you know, he gave me a lot of enthusiasm and, you know, the kind of, you know, the right push. And it was really good because, I mean, it was quite tough, obviously, at the beginning, like anything. But it gave us that push to produce not only our stuff and be more in control, but obviously take care of, you know, lesser known artists that are now better known artists. And I'm happy to say that. I did say that with a lot of pride. And obviously work ethically. So going back to your question, you know, that's what I want to kind of maintain. Obviously, you know, the more exposure I get as an artist, I mean, the better it is. But I don't expect much, man, because I mean, I have a kid now. I mean, I'm married, so I mean, you know, there are definitely other, you know, priorities. But I'm happy when I'm working in a productive and ethically correct environment, and that's what we have, I think, at Retro Reverb Records. And I'd like to have a huge shout out to all our artists, you know, Honeybeard, Dark Smoke Signal, Eden Future, man, oh, and Corp 86, which is an incredible synth pop band from Argentina, and they are like living proof of how you know, that really beautiful feeling of like stretching out and touching, you know, the, you know, like various parts of the world. Probably like when I think of, you know, perspective and think of exposure or, you know, success, I really believe in, you know, touching these people, you know, like touching obviously individuals. Because I think I've been around fame a lot in my life, you know, obviously like in the shadows, and I've been around fame enough to understand that I don't really want it at certain levels, because I would have to make too many, you know, too many bad decisions and too much compromise. And I'm pretty happy to be this kind of average man, you know, like spending good quality time with my wife and my child and my close friends, and, you know, and artists and alike, et cetera, et cetera. So I just hope I can kind of keep this kind of, you know, respect and adoration of independent music, because, you know, obviously having played, you know, for 22 years, I mean, I haven't heard it all, obviously, but I've heard most of it. I mean, you know, in terms of, you know, popular music, okay, So I really get excited when I have, you know, when there's an artist, you know, that's really good and is this kind of, you know, a diamond in the rough. And I can give you like 2 examples. I mean, I love all our artists, but obviously, you know, some artists resonate in different ways, and there are 2 in particular. I mean, apart from, you know, even Future from, you know, Rock Island, Illinois, incredible guy, incredible music. Honeybeard from Canada, and I mean, they everything they put out, I think, is just gold. I mean, they should be on some kind of, you know, Warner Brothers or Universal, or, you know, whatever. I mean, it's just like gold. It's just that we just don't have that $150,000 to invest in them to get them at that level, because that's what you need. Let's not kid ourselves. That is just what you need, nothing else. And an artist that's no longer with us, and he's German, and he's called the Goondock Saint. And I actually had the pleasure of putting some guitars on one of his tracks, the Necromancer. Very dark, very cinematic. And man, I mean, this man is just like a masterclass of making music, basically. It's just like incredible sounds and all that. So yeah, that's how I see the future, in my future, at least in music, you know, being surrounded by very talented individuals and always being surrounded by artists and musicians. But, you know, apart from my loved ones, you know, that's what really kind of gives color to my painting. Let's put it that way.
Well, that right there, you know, that right there is really awesome, because guess what? I mean, you have helped to give back to a world of music that has given you so much over the years. You're helping artists get to where they want to be in their careers and in their life. I think that with everything that's happening, especially now with the world changing as much as it has, that's important right now, because you're helping to give people a leg up. And even before this, you're helping to give people a leg up. But I think now more than ever, it's more important now to help give these artists a leg up in the world, because it is a really hard world out there for musicians and artists to kind of get their stuff out into the right ears. But when you have people who know what it's like, who have gone down the journey ahead of time and know like the way, the twists and the turns, then you have something great on your side. You really do.
Absolutely.
And you know, it's great to see all of the amazing work that you guys have been doing with Retro Reverb Records, because you are elevating these sounds to a new platform, to a wider world, to a larger audience all over the globe, which I think is great.
Absolutely.
A lot of artists don't get the chances that some artists have, you know, that some artists would get with being through a label. So by you guys doing that, you guys are really helping them to progress. And I think that's really great. And I look forward to seeing all the more amazing things you guys have to offer out there. A lot more amazing things that are coming from you and all the artists you have on your label, because you guys are going some really amazing places.
Oh, thanks. I mean, we try our best, although I have to say that the biggest credit goes out to Colin. I mean, Cybertronics, you know, I mean, apart from the lovely music he makes, but he's just so dedicated. I mean, we actually have the same job with both teachers. I mean, we're both English teachers, but he manages to do so much more. He has that kind of very managerial mindset that I don't have. I'll never have. I'm too much of an artist, and I'm also dyslexic. So I mean, I'm really crap at multitasking. So I mean, he just does. He's like a really kind of huge driving force, and I'm really happy that we've extended the team. We have Andy from the Sub Theory. I have an incredible guy making 3D videos called Jason, and just other. It's a community, because everyone kind of helps out. There's no egos in there, and as you said, reaching out to people. My goodness, it's just really. I don't even know how to describe it. When you manage to get in touch with all these different realities that are so different from yours, apart from Sweden, Germany, UK, whatever, but Argentina. Damn, I mean, there is no scene, or there's a very little scene, like spread out, not evenly spread out, and it's just great. It's just great because I mean, you're in touch with someone you would never have even considered, you know, yesterday. And you know, we live off that, but especially, you know, Colin. So kudos to him. Kudos to him.
You know what? You're artists helping artists to elevate to another level, to help get it out to the rest of the world. Because you guys know creativity. You guys know creativity, you guys know talent, and you see it. And that's what I think is great, is that, you know, everybody is always talented in their own way. Just, you know, some people may not like it, some people may love it. It doesn't matter, but you guys recognize at its core, it's their drive, the creative drive, that really kind of helps them along their journey. So thank you guys.
Thank you right back. You know, you're doing exactly the same thing in different terms, and we really appreciate it. And I think loads of other artists appreciate it.
Every little bit.
Yes.
What positive message would you give your fans out there?
The world is a really evil place, and it's very easy to cling on to the first thing that happens to pop up in front of your eyes, which 80% of the time is the worst, or, you know, the worst thing for yourself and just the bad thing in general. Whether that's disbelief, drugs, being opportunist, being self-righteous, you know. I mean, I'm a very spiritual person. I mean, I do believe in God, and my kind of idea of God, but, you know, one universal God. And I think there's a very small difference between believing in good and believing in evil. Okay. And I think, you know, a spiritual person, doesn't matter you know, what religion says, you know, I believe in one God. And I think someone who believes in, I don't know, the void would say, I believe in one God, comma, myself. All right. So I think the positive message would be, look for more. Yeah. Look for more, and, you know, choose, you know, the path less traveled. Things don't always have to be easy. And there's this really kind of terrible philosophy of not just get rich quick, but get happy quick, get satisfied quick. And it doesn't work like that. I mean, it really does not. I've had to really bust my ass, and I'm busting it even now, and I'll probably bust it when we'll be all like crooked and an old man. You know, life is about hard work. And, you know, you can, at the end of the day, you can believe in all, like, you can be like this kind of preachy vegan or new Satanist or, you know, whatever. But again, I think you're just making excuses not to do something that, you know, is going to be tough, but it's definitely going to be rewarding. So, I mean, it's definitely persevere with, not just with what makes you feel good, but with what, you know, deep down inside is right. And this is something I tell my students too. I mean, it's very easy just to, you know, get lost on social media and, you know, not learn anything at school and, you know, just like go like that and be in front of a mobile phone. But, you know, like, take notes, learn stuff. I'm going to teach you, you know, as best as I can. I'm not a boring person, but you have to pay attention, man. You have to pay attention. You have to learn. You have to, you know, train that mind of yours. Because as soon as you're out of this school, you know, I always tell them, you know, you're going to, you know, get your ass kicked if you start slacking off. That's it.
That's true. The world is a hard place, and it's never easy. It really isn't. You have to work very hard to get what you want. You really do. Because nothing is ever handed to you. Nothing can, I mean, sometimes things may fall into your lap, but you had to do a lot of work to get to that point you needed to be for those things to fall into your lap. Sometimes you have to put yourself in positions. You have to open yourself up to the universe. You have to be willing to say yes to things, you know, to be available. And it's like, when you do that, amazing things will happen for you. Amazing doors will open for you, and possibilities will be endless. But you have to be willing to put in the work. Whether it's anything that you do, if you're an artist, you know, and you're creating stuff, you have to realize that if you want to build something amazing for yourself, there's going to be a lot of long hours. There's going to be a lot of hard work. If you want to create a small business, believe me, working for yourself, starting a small business, whatever it may be, is not easy, and it's not going to happen overnight. It is going to take a lot of time. But if you're willing to commit to the hard work, and you're willing to commit to anything that comes your way, then you will make amazing things happen. So wise words right here from Alex, everybody. Take these in. The world will kick your ass, but if you work hard, you will make amazing things happen. Thank you so much, Alex, for taking the time to sit down and do this interview today. It was really great talking to you and finding out all about amazing things you have coming out with you and your music and Retro Reverb Records. Thank you to everybody who tuned in today to watch us have this conversation. If you like this video, be sure to like and subscribe to our Fiend YouTube channel, as we have many more awesome artist interviews on the way, just like this one right here with Alex Vecchietti here. And everybody out there, if you haven't checked out Alex's amazing music, be sure to check it out. Be sure to check out all the amazing artists they have under Retro Reverb Records and all the amazing work that they are doing over there, because they are going to some amazing places.
Thank you, Jack. It's been an absolute pleasure. God bless.
Thank you guys so much. I'll see you guys soon. Have a great day.